So in today's video, I want to talk about Reddit community points, what they came out with, and talk about why I actually think it's pretty darn cool. So let's start with the fact that Reddit launched Ethereum-based tokens for two subreddits, the cryptocurrency and the Fortnite subreddits. They're calling these tokens, which are each their own for each subreddit and community, they're calling one Moons for the cryptocurrency channel and one Bricks for the Fortnite channel. And, you know, when I saw this, I immediately started to think that I actually think this could be really neat. Reddit, whether you love it or not, there's a lot of crypto people there and a lot of people, of course, that are gamers with these channels that they've targeted. There's some level of blockchain understanding, crypto understanding. And Doge was used as a tipping cryptocurrency for a long time there, and on its own was actually helpful for bringing people into the crypto ecosystem, helping educate people about crypto. And I think this has a chance to do that as well, but it also has a chance, in my opinion, to do more. So let's first just talk about what the heck this is. So they've got community points. There's no sign really that they're going to limit it to just these two. And the token for each one is its own ERC20. So they're all on the Ethereum blockchain. And when a user goes in, they're creating a vault, which is essentially an Ethereum wallet. And then they can connect that to an in-browser wallet like what you can find in Brave or something else like that. I think this is neat for a variety of reasons. One is the way that I think about the way the token dynamics will work. From what I could read so far on the block and on CoinDesk, it's a trial of what they're doing here, but they're not assigning any kind of initial value. So what we're seeing is that there will be a market opportunity for participants to decide whether or not there's any value whatsoever to these tokens and what value will exist for these tokens. So Reddit did a presentation through this slideshow talking about a land of openness, creativity, and possibility, and a free internet. And they go through all these different things in this comic or slideshow, whatever you want to call that. But they obviously think that through this ecosystem, where, for instance, things like governance may be unknown or may kind of develop themselves, but they say it's a new beginning and together we'll find a way. So they're obviously leaving the door open to do quite a bit with these community points and to let their communities decide, hey, how does this work and how are they valued and what do we do? And I think that is fascinating because we could start to see valuations be established for communities. And it doesn't involve anything in regard to, like ICOs or like these inherent values or anything else. They just minted tokens, which is what ERC20s are supposed to be. To what degree is this centralized? To what degree is the control in the hands of Reddit, or is it in the community, or is it in the moderators of the community to decide what allows someone to get tokens when they get upvotes and things like that? Maybe that's going to be community by community in terms of how it works. I haven't seen a whole lot about that yet. Mostly, the questions are, hey, here's how you get bricks, and you get it for measuring contribution. But it does say the final decision is up to the community. And I'll be curious, how does that work in actuality? And when you put all this together, are they creating a realistic way to create and value communities themselves through ERC20 tokens? I think there's really interesting power in that. So imagine if you're part of this Fortnite community, or a younger community is even more interesting. If you're a big contributor, then just want to throw out one more use case. Imagine Wikipedia with something like this. So if you're a significant contributor toward one of these communities, if you're early on, you're investing in building that community, you get rewarded with tokens, but then what's yet to be seen, but I think has real potential, is that over time, those tokens do establish value because the community itself gains influence or gains members, gains desire for people to own the tokens. Some of that's going to be left to things like the inflation rate of the token, or the economics of the token. But there's so much interesting potential here, and I think it's one of the more interesting things that I've seen with Ethereum and ERC20 tokens in quite some time. I'd kind of put this in the same realm as non-fungible tokens, and the things that people were creating with cards and art and stuff like that. Except for I actually think the valuation of a community and people's desire to be part of a community is higher. And there's no better test bed than these extremely popular communities that already exist, like Fortnite and the cryptocurrency chat. So this says there's 4.8 million bricks, and what I need to dig into more is whether that's the supply that will exist forever or if it will increase, and community by community maybe this will change. And then importantly as well, how other websites maybe choose to either mimic this model or embrace this model. Another thing that could be interesting would be another community essentially tacking on its rewards points with the Reddit community. So if Moons becomes the de facto community token for cryptocurrency, well, what if that's adopted over to other communities where they just say, hey, we're just going to use Moons as well because Moons are tradable. I think that's maybe a little more difficult or a little less likely if the origin point of Moons is in one singular community, but it certainly makes sense in like derivative communities. So let's say other cryptocurrency channels, like sub cryptocurrency channels on Reddit, perhaps maybe they would adopt one of these. Or other people can launch very similar experiments, but where essentially a equivalent of Moons or bricks could be used across a network. What if Discord did this and they came out with disks, and the disks tokens were across all Discords, and it became a kind of self-valued by people contributing and participating in Discord token and currency that is, with the rise and fall of Discord as a whole, and people across those communities all adopt the same ones. Now this gets us to the other element of this, which is these can be traded absolutely anywhere because they're just an address on Ethereum. They're an ERC20. So we could start to see Binance and FTX and Coinbase and whoever else decide they want to list these ERC20s. It's super easy to list them because they're just ERC20s. They all have support for this, and we can see a market develop for these tokens. So just like you saw forever with games, one person goes in and goes to level 80 in this game and builds up a character, and they may be breaking the rules of the game by selling that character, but there was a marketplace for those pre-built characters in World of Warcraft or something like that. Well, in this case, someone can buy influence in one of these communities, and the dynamics that you create there are fascinating to me. And in general, I'm really bullish on this concept. Maybe there are some others that have been kind of like this, where they're trying to fill this role. I've heard of, various gaming tokens where they're trying to do this or that. But you know what? This has no ICO behind it. It has no inherently decided value up front. So it's really going to be something the market decides. And that's where the experiment gets fascinating to me, because I want to see, what does this market decide? And how does the valuation of one community token compare to the valuation of another community token? Because what we could end up doing here is betting on the value of communities over time. And all of that is dependent on the growth of that community, the contributions within that community, and then people can essentially bet on the success or failure of these communities. And I think this is all pretty ambitious, but it's fascinating, and it's one of the cooler things I've seen on Ethereum, and one of the cooler concepts I've seen, especially because it's unadulterated by some baseline market cap or anything like that. It's just a token. It's just no different than Karma, except for it's completely tradable because of the Ethereum blockchain. So I am watching this. I'm super interested to see what they do, to see if it becomes anything at all. And I just wanted to share what I was thinking. All right, I'll see you next time.